The shadow man that follows people home. It was past midnight in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio, when police got a strange call. A man named Ethan Walker, a 35-year-old mechanic, told dispatchers that someone was standing outside his house. He said it wasn't a burglar, and it wasn't a neighbor. It was something else. His voice on the 911 recording shook as he described it. "It's a shadow," he whispered. "A tall shadow with no face. It keeps moving closer every time I blink." When officers arrived, they found Ethan sitting on his front porch, pale as if he had seen death itself. His yard was empty. The street was quiet. No footprints, no evidence of trespassers. But Ethan swore that a figure had followed him from work all the way to his home, keeping its distance until he stepped onto his porch. The police wrote it off as stress or exhaustion, but Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He kept his lights on, staring at the walls, sure that the darkness itself was watching him. The story might have ended there if it was only Ethan, but within a week, 2 other families in town reported the same thing. A woman named Jessica Miller said she saw a man-shaped shadow in her rearview mirror while driving home. She thought it was a trick of the streetlight until the same dark outline appeared at her kitchen window hours later. Another case came from David and Linda Harper, a retired couple, who said a faceless shadow drifted behind them as they left the grocery store parking lot. At first, police treated the reports as pranks or coincidences. Yet when they pulled surveillance footage from the Millers' neighborhood, something disturbing surfaced. In the grainy camera feed, there was indeed a tall, dark figure standing motionless at the end of Jessica's driveway. It had no features, no clothes, just a stretched-out shape like a person made entirely of smoke. News spread. One evening, Jessica called her sister on the phone, panicking. She said the shadow was standing at the edge of her backyard, watching. Her sister told her to stay calm, that she was probably imagining things. But then Jessica gasped. The phone line recorded her words. "It's closer now. It's at the window." The call ended there. Police rushed to her house within minutes, but Jessica was gone. Her front door was unlocked, her car still in the driveway. The only strange detail was a faint black smudge near the living room window, shaped almost like a long hand pressed against the glass. The sheriff stood inside the Miller house that night, staring at the mark, and said nothing. The deputies exchanged nervous glances. No one wanted to admit it out loud, but they all felt it, the sense that something was watching them too. And then, as they reviewed the house's security cameras, one deputy froze the video. Behind Jessica's backyard fence, in the shadows between 2 trees, a tall, dark figure stood perfectly still. The room went silent. After Jessica's disappearance, the entire town of Westerville was on edge. Families left porch lights burning all night, and people avoided walking alone after dark. Sheriff Michael Grant ordered extra patrols, but even his deputies felt uneasy. Some of them admitted they hated night shifts now, because every shadow looked like it might move. The local news pushed the story further, calling it the Shadow Man Mystery. That made things worse. Reporters crowded outside the police station, demanding answers, while ghost hunters filmed YouTube videos near Jessica's home. Some laughed, some mocked, but the townspeople weren't laughing. Too many people had seen the same thing. One of those witnesses was Mark Reynolds, a 22-year-old college student. Mark had been out late one night working on his car when he noticed something strange. By now, Sheriff Grant had files piling up on his desk. Missing persons reports, strange phone calls, unexplained security footage. Each case had one common thread: the Shadow Man. Out of desperation, he contacted a retired detective named Henry Lawson, who had studied unusual cases across the Midwest. Lawson arrived with thick folders of old reports, some dating back decades. He explained something chilling. Sightings of a faceless shadow had been reported in different states for years. Always the same description, always the same pattern. People saw it once, then again, closer each time, until they vanished. "It doesn't break in," Lawson said gravely. "It doesn't talk, it only follows. And the moment you acknowledge it, that's when it never leaves you." The sheriff asked if Lawson believed it was a criminal, some person hiding in the dark. Lawson shook his head. "If it was a man, someone would have caught him by now. This thing isn't flesh and blood. It's something else." That answer didn't comfort anyone. The next night, Mark disappeared. His car was found parked near a gas station outside town, engine still running, driver's door open. Inside the car, police found his phone on the seat. The last video on it showed Mark breathing heavily, holding the camera toward a dark road. "It's here," he whispered. "It's right behind me." The video ended with a blur of motion and silence. Rachel collapsed when she saw the footage. She swore she would not stay silent like the sheriff wanted. "People need to know," she cried, "before more of us disappear." But as she walked out of the station that night, she froze. Across the street, between two lampposts, stood the shape of a man. Tall, dark, still. Her scream echoed through the night. Rachel Carter barely slept after seeing the figure across the street. She tried to convince herself it was just her imagination, but deep down she knew it wasn't. The shadow man had marked her, just like Ethan, Jessica, and Mark before her. The feeling of being followed clung to her every step. The next morning, she drove to her sister's house in nearby Gahanna, hoping the distance would give her peace. But even there, she felt eyes on her. When she looked out the kitchen window, she thought she saw a dark shape by the neighbor's fence. Her sister, unaware of the full story, told her she was just tired and needed rest, but Rachel couldn't shake the dread. She started carrying her phone everywhere, determined to record proof before the shadow claimed her too. Back in Westerville, Sheriff Grant was under heavy pressure. 3 disappearances in less than 2 months had left the town restless. At a town meeting, citizens demanded answers. Some shouted at him, calling him a liar for downplaying the reports. Others accused the department of hiding evidence. The sheriff stood at the podium, sweat on his forehead, trying to keep control. "We are doing everything we can," he said firmly. "These cases are still under investigation. Please, let us handle this." But the crowd wasn't convinced. After the meeting, Grant returned to his office where Detective Lawson waited with another file. Lawson slid it across the desk. "This isn't new, Michael," he said. Inside were reports from as far back as the 1960s. Same description, same vanishing victims. A handful of towns scattered across the Midwest, each haunted by the Shadow Man for months before the reports suddenly stopped. Grant frowned. "Stopped? You mean the disappearances ended?" Lawson shook his head. "No, the town's emptied. People moved away. Businesses shut down. In the end, the Shadow Man had nothing left to chase. That's the only pattern I've seen." The sheriff sat back, rubbing his temples. "So, what you're telling me is this thing doesn't go away. It just moves on when it's finished with a place." Lawson nodded gravely. "And Westerville is next." Meanwhile, Rachel tried to stay brave. She met with a few friends to tell them about what she saw, including Daniel Brooks, a local journalist. Daniel had been covering the story since the first disappearance, and he was convinced the town was hiding something. When Rachel showed him the video of Mark's last moments, his eyes widened. "This isn't just rumor," he whispered. "This is real." Daniel promised to publish the truth, but Rachel begged him to be careful. "It's not just a story," she warned. "The more you look for it, the more it looks for you." That night, Rachel drove home from her sister's house. The highway was empty, her headlights cutting through the darkness. For a moment, she felt calm, thinking maybe she had escaped, but then she saw it. In the rearview mirror, a tall figure stood on the shoulder of the road. Her heart pounded. She pressed the gas, but each time she looked back, the figure seemed closer. Panicked, she pulled into a gas station. The lot was brightly lit, and she thought the light might protect her. She hurried inside, trembling, and asked the clerk if anyone had followed her in. The man shook his head, confused, but when Rachel glanced back through the glass doors, she saw it again. A tall, dark shape just outside the light, waiting. The clerk saw nothing. "Ma'am, maybe you need rest," he said kindly. Rachel didn't answer. She grabbed her phone, aimed it at the door, and started recording. For a moment, nothing appeared. Then, as her hand shook, the screen picked up a flicker, a distortion near the edge of the light, a shadow that should not have been there. She posted the video online that same night. Within hours, it spread across social media, captioned with hashtags about the Shadow Man. Some dismissed it as a hoax, but others swore it matched stories they had heard in different states. Messages poured in from strangers. "I've seen him too. He followed me once. Don't let him notice you." The sheriff was furious when he learned the video had gone viral. He knew panic would only grow worse. But Lawson shook his head. Maybe panic is the only thing that keeps people safe. If they're scared, they stay home. If they stay home, they might survive. Rachel didn't feel safe, though. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined the shadow standing by her bed. Every creak in the house made her jump. Finally, she decided to move in with Daniel, thinking it would be safer not to be alone. But late that night, as Daniel sat at his desk reviewing notes, he noticed something on the wall across the room. A darkness deeper than the rest of the night, stretching into the shape of a man. He froze. His breath caught in his throat. The shadow wasn't outside anymore. It was inside the house. Daniel Brooks couldn't move. The shape on the wall stretched taller than any man, darker than any shadow should ever be. It didn't belong to the lamplight, didn't bend with his movements. It just stood there, a figure made of pure darkness, head tilted as if it was studying him. His hands trembled as he reached for his phone, but before he could hit record, the shadow faded. The wall was empty again. Rachel rushed into the room, alarmed by his silence. "What happened?" she asked, her voice shaking. Daniel could barely speak. "It was here," he whispered, "not outside. Here." They barely slept that night, jumping at every creak and flicker of light. By morning, Daniel decided he needed to act. He gathered every report, every video, and every witness statement into a folder. "If this thing is real," he told her Rachel, "people need to see the truth. They need to understand what's happening." Rachel, pale and exhausted, shook her head. "You don't get it. The more you talk about it, the stronger it gets. Mark thought he could fight it, too. Now he's gone." But Daniel wouldn't back down. He met with Sheriff Grant later that day, placing the folder on his desk. "The people deserve to know," Daniel said. "If you won't speak up, I will." The sheriff stared at the folder in silence. Finally, he said, "You think you're the first reporter to chase this story? Others tried before you. None of them lasted long." He slid the folder back toward Daniel. "Sometimes silence is the only way to survive." Daniel left the station more determined than ever. That night he began writing an article he planned to publish online. But as he typed, the room seemed to grow darker. His desk lamp flickered. He looked up and saw it again. The figure standing in the corner, still and silent. He froze. Rachel was asleep in the next room, unaware. Daniel whispered to himself, "It's not real, it's just my mind." But the shadow didn't vanish. It stretched closer, as if the walls themselves were bending. He reached for his phone, but before he could press record, the lamp went out. The next morning, Rachel woke up to find Daniel's laptop open, the article half-written. His chair was knocked over, and his phone lay cracked on the floor. But Daniel was gone. The police launched another search, but just like the others, there was no trace. The only strange detail was a smear of black on the wall, shaped vaguely like a human silhouette. Sheriff Grant closed the file and rubbed his eyes. He was losing control of his town. Word spread quickly that the shadow man had taken another victim. Parents pulled their children out of school. Businesses shut down earlier each night. Some families packed their cars and left town altogether. Westerville was becoming a ghost town, drained by fear. Rachel knew she was next. She could feel it every time she closed her eyes, the sensation of something standing just beyond her sight. She stopped going outside at night, stopped answering the phone, stopped sleeping in the dark. Still, no matter what she did, she felt the presence drawing nearer. One evening, desperate for help, she drove to Detective Lay